Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Today's video, we're talking getting started with Path to Glory for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and today we're going to be looking at the Orruk Warclans, and in particular, the Bonesplitterz. In this video, we're going to go through what it is to be a Bonesplitterz Orruk Warclans army, what exactly that gives us and how it works on the tabletop and sort of the benefits we get from being that type of army. And then we're going to go look at how we build a Path to Glory roster through the 5 steps of what you need to do, focusing on the Bonesplitterz and what we're going to need to sort of pick in those options there. We're then going to go and have a look at some units we should start off with and some units we should grab later, and then finish off the video with a little sample army list of 600 points for a Vanguard sized force for Path to Glory. With that all said, let's get talking. Now, Orruk Warclans is an interesting battle tome. It has 3 distinct subtypes of Orruks in there, and they are Ironjaws, Cruelboys, and Bonesplitterz. Each one of them is essentially an army in its own right. They have their own allegiance abilities, and they don't share any similarities with those allegiance abilities at all with any of the other subtypes of Orruks. There's also a mixed faction called Big War inside the book, which is a mix of all 3, and again has its own type of rules of where you mix all 3 together, not an actual rule set from one of the others. Now, each one of these types, and that includes a Bonesplitterz, has its own different sub-factions. So these multiple different sub-factions all can give a wide variety of different things to the Bonesplitterz. But for generic rules for Bonesplitterz, first of all, the army has an army-wide ward save of a 6+, which is really nice. The army generally doesn't have a lot of armor, so having this war save, thanks to the amazing war paint that, it has magical properties or whatever, the Orruks believe it protects them, so it does. And then also they have the ability to call the Bonesplitterz War at the start of one combat phase, and for that combat phase, the entire army will have a 4-up ward save instead of 6. So pretty nice there. We then have the Spirit of Gorkamorka rule, where if the modified hit roll for an attack made with a melee weapon by a friendly Bonesplitterz unit that has 5 or more models is a 6, that attack scores 2 hits on the target instead of 1. So exploding 6 to hit melee wide across the army, really nice. And then we've also got the Tireless Trackers ability, where after deployment but before the first battle round begins, half of the Bonesplitterz units in your army, rounding up, can move up to 5 inch. If both players can move units before the first battle round, they must roll off, and the winner chooses who moves their units first. But this is all some really cool stuff for the Bonesplitterz, so let's get looking and have a look at how we can expand upon this with the Path to Glory roster. And so, starting to look at our Path to Glory roster, step 1 is choose your faction and realm. Now, when you choose your faction, you must pick a sub-faction as well, and these must remain the same for your entirety of your Path to Glory campaign. For the purpose of this, we've gone for Icebone. I believe it's just the most utility one out of them all. For me, Icebone, the fact that our modified wound rolls of a 6 do mortal wound instead, or a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic of the weapon, it's pretty nice. Now, this is really cool because it combines well with the allegiance ability of the exploding 6 to hit, meaning we're going to get more chance to get more mortal wounds out of those 6 to hit, which is really nice. Realm-wise, you can choose whatever you want to. There are some realm artifacts if you want to bring in certain publications into it, but it really is just a narrative choice. Maybe a great way to sort of figure out how you're going to base your army. What's your bases going to look like? Are you going to be Realm of Life and have lots of foresty bases? You're going to be the Realm of Beasts and have, more skulls and that of monsters and stuff across your base, or Death, something, really sort of dark and drab. Whatever, but for this sub-faction needs to be chosen, I recommend picking Icebone to start with. We then look at step 2, which is choosing your starting size and starting territories, and we're going to focus on a Vanguard game in this scenario. So Vanguard is 600 points of starting force. You start with 1 territory. You have a 6 unit limit, meaning you can pick 6 different units in your army, or 6 total units, and you start with 5 glory points. That starting territory can be a number of different things, but for me, I think Small Settlement is really useful for Bonesplitterz. This gives us an extra reinforcement point to start with. Step 3 is creating your order of battle. Now, this is pretty much your roster of units you can pick from to choose to battle with. You can have a maximum number of units of it based on the starting size of whatever you do. So this does increase if you start with more points, but obviously for Vanguard it is 6 units. And then you can have a maximum of 3 heroes and a maximum of 1 of each monster, war machine, wizard, priest, reinforced unit and allied units, and of course, thanks to our Small Settlement, we're actually going to get a second reinforcement unit, so we can have 2 of those instead. Really useful for Bonesplitterz who really want to be taking numbers to the battlefield. Step 4 is our core enhancements, and core enhancements are pretty simple. These are the generic enhancements you pick before the battle begins. So this is something like your first command trait, your first artifact, your first mount trait, all of that sort of stuff. The generic ones you get to pick at the start of the game. These are what your core enhancements are. You can get extra enhancements later throughout the course of the campaign, but these core ones are what you pick here, and they must remain the same through every game. Step 5 is picking your first quest, and I recommend for Orruk Warclans, like I have for all of them, I recommend picking Ransack. For me, this just gets you off to a great place to start. It'll give you some great narrative background, and also I think there's generally a more case for using this than, say, some of the other ones that are more Bonesplitterz specific, like the one where you get to play the monster killing scenario. Not all your opponents are going to have a monster so early in the campaign, so it's probably worth saving that one for a little bit later and doing some Ransack first. Because at the end of the Path to Glory battle, you complete this quest if you've won a major victory, and you can pick one territory you control to be ransacked. Following the instructions for ransacking on the Orruk Warclans territories table, you then remove that territory from your roster. So there are a bunch of different territories that Orruk Warclans have which are unique to them, and you can ransack them and get some cool bonuses. So I recommend picking this first, just getting some extra bonuses, getting built up, and then potentially once your opponents and your friends in your campaign start getting more monsters, potentially going with a monster hunt down the line. And so, what units can we look at to begin our force with? Well, I don't think there's any better leader to start a Bonesplitterz force with than the Warclans Prophet. He's a 2-cast wizard, so he can cast 2 and unbind 2 spells each hero phase, and he's got a 5+ save and 7 wounds, so a pretty survivable hero for Bonesplitterz standards. Now, he's got the Warclans mask where he can do some mortal wounds by staring his scary face at his enemies, and then he's got the Fist of Gork spell, which is a 5 to cast, 24-inch range. Pick one enemy unit within range invisible, and roll a number of dice equal to the number of models in that unit, and for each 6+, a mortal wound is taken by that unit. However, if they have a 10+ to cast, they suffer those mortal wounds on a 4 instead. So a pretty good wizard to begin with for the army. I think he's just a solid place to start. Now, looking into units, I recommend maybe having a look at Savage Orruks or Savage Orruk Moorboys. Both have some interesting profiles, 2 wounds and a 5+ save for the Orruks and a 6 for the Moorboys. Now, you get different benefits on the charge. For the Savage Orruks, you add 1 to wound rolls, and for the Moorboys, you add 1 to the attacks. I really do like the Moorboys in this, so they'll have 4 attacks on the charge at 4s and 3s. No rend damage 1. For me, this just works well with the exploding attacks. We've got more chance to get more attacks through, to get more mortal wounds through on the wound rolls. I think Moorboys are just the way to go. Now, Arrow Boys are another option we have available as well, and these all come out of the same kit. Savage Orruk Arrow Boys, they get to improve their rend by 1 if they're fighting and targeting a monster. 2 attacks with 5s and 4s, no rend damage 1 on the bows, and then they've got 2 attacks in combat as well. Lastly, we have the Savage Boar Boys, which when playing the Icebone clan actually become battle line for us. So Savage Orruk Boar Boys, they are going to have a 5+ save with 3 wounds apiece, which is just really solid. And then the Tusker Charge is going to give them add 1 to the hit and wound rolls made with a Savage Sticker or Tusken Hooves by the unit if it's made a charge move in the same turn. They've just got a load of attacks coming out of those models, whether that be with any of the weapon options. So generally, I would recommend building with your Savage Stickers just for the beginning. It's going to allow you to increase your unit and get more in the fight and allow you to have bigger units of Boar Boys on the table, which is really what you want with those 2-inch reach. So probably it's not the most efficient out of 5-man unit, but definitely when you increase your size, it will be the better option later. But there's definitely some really cool options here. But where do we go to next? Well, you can pick a couple of different Savage Orruk heroes. First of all, we've got the Maniac Windob. Now, he is a cavalry option for a hero wizard, so he's pretty cool. He can run alongside your Boar Boys, which is really nice, meaning he can use all those different sort of spells that affect the Boar Boys right up next to them. He's got Tusker Charge, so he gets to add 1 to hit and wound rolls made with the Tusken Hooves of his mount. And you've got the Bone Spirit spell, which is successfully cast on a 7 and 12-inch. Until the next hero phase, you add 1 to wound rolls made for attacks by melee weapons from that unit, so pretty nice. And he's also got, 3 attacks at 4s, 3s, rend 1, damage D3. For a wizard, he doesn't hit all too shabby. The Warlock is the other option, a foot hero option, and his big thing is he's got the ritual dance he can do. So he's a wizard, but he doesn't have his own actual spell. Instead, he has a ritual dance where at the start of the hero phase, instead of attempting to dispel an endless spell or casting spells with this unit, you can say it's performing one of the following dances. You can do the Grimdog dance on a 3+, he heals D3 wounds. He can do the Glyphdog dance on a 3+, you add 1 to save rolls for an attack targeting unit. And a weird dock dance on pick a friendly unit within 12 inch, and on the 3+, you add 1 to casting, spelling, and unbinding rolls for that wizard. So a really useful support piece, really good next to that Warclans Prophet, who's trying to hit that 10+ to cast on his big Fists of Gork spell to do the mortal wounds on 4+ for every model in a unit. Looking at some other units, we've got Savage Big Stabbers, which actually get inside the general Savage Orruk box. Now, their big thing is, well, they hit like a truck. 3 attacks each with a 3-inch range, 3 3s, rend 2, damage 2, and each time a model in this unit is slain by an attack made with a melee weapon, before the model is removed from play, pick one enemy unit within 3 inch of them, and add 2 to the roll if that enemy is a monster. On a 4 up, they suffer D3 mortals. They've got 4 wounds, 6 up saves, they just generally go up and stab things good. Now, the other unit is Savage Orruk Morboys, and this is another option from the Boar Boy kit. This one has more attacks. Has a 6 up save rather than a 5 up, and 3 attacks at 4s and 3s, and they get to add an extra attack when they charge, which is really, really cool for those Savage Orruk Boar Boy maniacs. Other than that, they've got Tusker Charge just like the rest of our Orruks. Now, looking at a little sample army list, we've gone for the Iceborne Bonesplitterz as we talked about. Hold the line here. Now, we're not going to get a triumph because we are 600 points, though if you are to pick one, I guess, later, you will get to pick one on your sheet. It just won't affect you at this point in time. There really is a ton of good options. Plus, one a wound is really nice on them, and rerollable charges are also really nice. So I think you've got a couple of good options. And also, you generally do have low bravery, so even a auto-pass battle shock is nice as well. Our Warclans Prophet, though, is going to be our general, and he's going to have the one with the Beast command trait, which is going to allow him to pick an extra spell, so he's going to have 2 spells. We'll talk about them in just a second. His artifact is going to be the Glow and Tattoos, which gives him a +2 to his glowy tattoo rolls, which means he's got a ward save of a 4 up. Pretty survivable there. Now, his 2 spells, as mentioned, we've got, first of all, Power of the Werebore. Now, this is a range of 24 inch and casting value of 6, and until your next hero phase, you can add 1 to run and charge rolls for a unit, and add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by that unit, but you cannot shoot. So, nice to go on some of our Boar Boys. And then he's also got the Gorkamorka's Warcry, which is successfully pick an enemy model within 12 inch, value casting of 7, and in the following combat phase, that unit can only be picked to fight at the end of the combat phase. Unit-wise, we've gone for 5 Savage Boar Boys as our core sort of line, though you can definitely go more and lean into this if you want, and then 2 units of Savage Orruk Morboys as well. Everything's wrapped up in a little battle regiment for a 1-drop, 600 points on the nose, 62 wounds is a lot of wounds for 600 points. That's a wound, over a wound every 10 points, which is really, really good. So pretty solid all round. Well, that's it for the video. We hope you enjoyed watching. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our little fine community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the video's description to our Discord server. Lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel more, you can do so by following the links to either our Patreon or YouTube members down in the description of the video. It goes a massive way to helping the channel continue to produce the content that it does. We'd like to give a special shout out to all our patrons and YouTube members, so a special thank you to our Patreons: Christian Weir, James Soren, Greenskins Gaming, AJC, Kenny Lyle, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nilsson, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, and Samuel. And a shout out to our YouTube members: Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Vinny, Lochloric, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Sean Scott, and Ariana Edwards. Finally, a last special shout out to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork for the channel that you see pictured here, and to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing background work on our Discord server for us. Thank you both, you do amazing work. That's it though. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Once again, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now.